on your feet. Right now. The voice fills room 214 at Dunmore Academy like something that was not invited in. 17-year-old Amara Osei does not move immediately, because Amara Osei has not done anything. She is in the third row from the window. She has her app chemistry textbook open to chapter 9. She has a pencil in her hand. She was in the middle of a sentence. Officer Kevin Stills stands in the doorway in full uniform. He is pointing at her. I said on your feet. 22 students turn. The teacher, Mr. Patel, steps forward. Officer, what is this, sir? I need you to step back. Stills is already moving down the aisle between desks. He is a wide man in a narrow space, and he does not slow down for the desks he knocks with his hip as he passes. This does not concern you. Amara closes her textbook. She does it slowly, with the particular care of someone who has learned that the wrong movement at the wrong moment can become the reason for anything that follows. She sets the pencil down. She looks up at Stills. Her face is a closed door. There's been a report, Stills says, of a student matching your description stealing from a locker on the second floor. My description, Amara says. Young, female, black, he says it like it is a physical address, like it narrows the field to one. You match, so you're going to come with me. She stands. Slowly, her hands visible, palms slightly raised, everything precisely, exhaustingly correct. She does not look at her classmate, she looks at Stills. He has no idea who this girl's father is. And in 47 minutes, every person in this building who let this happen is going to find out. But this story doesn't start here. Rewind 4 hours. Rewind 4 years. Amara Osei is 17 years old, the kind of student whose transcript reads like a document a guidance counselor prints out and quietly shows other guidance counselors. 4,001 GPA. App Chemistry, App History, App Literature, App Calculus. First chair clarinet in the school orchestra. Volunteer tutor at the public library on Wednesday afternoons, which she had done since she was 13, and which she had never mentioned on any form, because it had not occurred to her that it was something you mentioned. She wanted to be a forensic chemist. She had known this since she was 11. She wore her hair natural and her expression level. She was not cool exactly. Not in the way that required an audience. She was the kind of person who made the adults in her life feel, when they were around her, that they were the ones who needed to focus. Her mother, Dr. Vivienne Osei, was a cardiologist at St. Emmanuel Medical Center, with 15 years in practice and a patience for deliberate, meticulous work that her daughter had inherited precisely. Vivienne had immigrated from Ghana at 24, completed her residency at a program that had never once produced a foreign-born cardiologist before her, and had published, in the years since, 32 papers on ventricular repair in pediatric patients. She still called her mother every Sunday morning from the same chair she had been sitting in when she made the call that told her mother she had passed her boards. Amara's father was Deputy Superintendent Marcus Osei of the Dunmore City Police Department. He commanded the entire precinct district that included Dunmore Academy. Every officer assigned to that building, every school resource officer, every contract security assignment, every response unit dispatched to that campus reported through a chain that had exactly 3 links to Marcus Osei. He had served for 21 years. He had come up through patrol, through detective, through major crimes, through a department that was not, in his early years, a welcoming place for a man who looked like him and spoke like him and refused to pretend otherwise. He had passed his sergeant's exam the first time, his lieutenant's exam the first time, his captain's evaluation the first time. He had not made those climbs by making himself smaller. He had made them by being, In every room he entered, the most prepared person in it. He kept a triangular flag case on the credenza in his office. His uncle's flag. Sergeant First Class Kwame Osai, U.S. Army, who had served 2 tours and come home to a country that had not fully decided what to do with him. Marcus had been 8 years old when his uncle came home. He had watched that man navigate the rest of his life with a dignity that cost him something every single day, and that he never once asked anyone to acknowledge. That flag was the first thing Marcus looked at every morning he came into his office. It was the last thing he looked at before he left. His daughter had his uncle's eyes. He had thought so since she was a baby. Kevin Stills had worked as a school resource officer at Dunmore Academy for 3 years. He had been assigned there after what the personnel file called a contextual reassignment from the 4th Precinct, language that, in department terms, meant there had been a situation the department preferred to put distance between, and that was not so severe it required formal action. The situation had involved a traffic stop and a young black man, and a use of force that 3 witnesses described one way and Stills described another way. And the department had chosen, as it sometimes does, to believe the version with the badge attached to it. His personnel file at the time of his assignment to Dunmore Academy contained 2 prior complaints, both from school staff, both dismissed by the district's contractor review board, which reviewed complaints from within a process it had itself designed, and which had never, in 4 years, sustained a single complaint against any school resource officer it oversaw. Stills had a specific pattern that the teacher across the hall from room 214, Ms. Denise Carmichael, had documented in a personal journal she kept in her desk drawer because she had not trusted the formal process to hold it. 14 months of entries. She had documented 7 incidents in which Stills had singled out black students for removal from class, locker searches, or ID checks without documented cause. She had documented 3 incidents in which those same students were later confirmed to have had no involvement in whatever had prompted the removal. She had never been asked about her journal. No one in the administration had known to ask. The locker theft report that Stills cited when he walked into room 214 had been made anonymously to the main office at 9:40 that morning. It described a young black female student. It contained no locker number, no specific item reported stolen, no time range. It was the kind of report that, reviewed carefully, contained no usable information. It had not been reviewed carefully. It had been passed to Stills, who had taken it and gone looking. Amara Osei was in room 214, because that is where she sat on Tuesday mornings, because that is where app chemistry met. Because she had done nothing. The hallway outside room 214 is empty when Stills walks Amara into it. He is behind her, not touching her, not yet, but close enough that the proximity itself is a pressure. She walks with her arms at her sides. She counts the tiles on the floor. She does not look back. "Where are we going?" she asks. "Administration office. We're going to sort this out." "Sort what out?" Her voice is level. She was not asking a question. She was noting that there was nothing to sort. The report. Someone filed a report about a student matching my description. That's right. Did anyone check the locker? Stills does not answer. Did anyone check whether anything was actually taken? We'll sort that out at the office. She nods once. She files that away. Unstated assumption, she thinks. Report with no evidence, she thinks. Removal from instructional time without documentation, she thinks. Her mother had taught her, not in those words, but in 27 years of watching how a woman moves through a world that requires her to be twice as careful as anyone else just to break even. That the way you survive is by naming what is happening precisely in your own mind, before anyone else tries to name it for you. In the main office, the assistant principal, Mr. Greg Flaherty, stands up when they come in. He is a man who uses the phrase, "let's be calm about this," as a reflexive opener, regardless of whether anyone is being uncalm. He uses it now. "Let's be calm about this," he says. "I am calm," Amara says. Flaherty looks at Stills. "What have we got?" "Anonymous report of locker theft matching this student's description. I'd like to search her bag and conduct a locker inspection." "There was a report?" Amara looks at Flaherty. "Can I see the report?" "That's not," Stills starts. "Students have a right to review documentation used as the basis for a disciplinary or investigative action. That's District Policy 7.4. She looks at Flaherty. "I'd also like to call my parents." Flaherty shifts. Stills steps forward. He takes Amara's backpack from her shoulder, not asking, taking, and sets it on the office counter. He unzips the main compartment. 31 minutes. Amara watches him go through her bag. Her app chemistry binder, her app history notes. 3 sharpened pencils, 2 mechanical. A library card, a folded bus schedule, a Ziploc of almonds. A water bottle with a track team sticker on the side. Nothing else. The man's hands move through her things the way hands move through things they have decided they own the right to move through, and she watches him with the same expression she would use to watch weather. "Locker," Stills says. Flaherty is already reaching for the master key. In the second-floor hallway, Stills opens Amara's locker. Her books. A jacket on the hook. A small mirror taped to the door. A photograph of her family at a national park. She is maybe 13 in it. Her parents on either side of her, all 3 of them laughing at something outside the frame. Stills looks at the photograph for less than a second. He moves the jacket. He checks the shelf. He finds nothing because there is nothing to find. He steps back. He looks at the locker. He looks at the floor. He does not look at Amara. "We'll need to review the report more carefully," he says. "Yes," Amara says. "You will." 22 minutes. Back in the main office, Flaherty offers Amara a seat in the student waiting area, the one with the plastic chairs and the motivational poster on the wall, and the particular quality of fluorescent light that makes everyone inside it feel accused of something. She sits. She asks again to call her parents. Flaherty says he's going to make some calls first. He goes into his inner office and closes the door. Amara looks at the phone on the receptionist's desk. The receptionist, Mrs. Joellen Torres, has been at Dunmore Academy for 11 years. She has her own observations about Kevin Stills. She has kept them, until now, in a place that felt safer than official channels. She looks at Amara sitting in that chair. She looks at the girl's face, which is completely controlled and completely exhausted. She picks up the phone. She sets it on the counter, facing Amara. She goes back to her computer and looks at her screen, and she says, quietly, without turning, "The outside line is 9. Amara dials 9. She dials her mother's cell. Vivienne Osai picks up on the second ring. She is between patients. She listens for 45 seconds without speaking. Then she says, "Don't say another word to anyone. I'll call your father. I love you." 14 minutes. Deputy Superintendent Marcus Osai was in a budget meeting on the 4th floor of the District Command Building when his wife called. He excused himself from the meeting in the way that senior officers excuse themselves, without explaining, without rushing, with the particular steadiness that communicates that whatever is happening is under control, because he is the one handling it. He stood in the corridor. He listened. He asked 3 questions. He thanked his wife. He ended the call. He walked back into the meeting room. He asked his assistant, who was sitting against the wall, to pull the duty roster for Dunmore Academy's current school resource assignment. The assistant had the name in 40 seconds: Kevin Stills. Marcus sat with that name for a moment. He knew the name. He knew the reassignment. He knew the personnel file. He knew about the 2 dismissed complaints from the school, because every complaint in his command district passed through a review process that he had redesigned 18 months ago specifically, so that complaints did not disappear before they reached him. He did not raise his voice. He stood up. He told the meeting he would return. He walked to the elevator and pressed the button for the lobby. 8 minutes. Kevin Stills was still in the main office when the deputy superintendent walked through the front entrance of Dunmore Academy. Stills heard the front doors. He looked up. He saw a man in a command officer's uniform cross the lobby, past the attendance desk, past the trophy case, and push open the main office door. Every officer knows rank by sight before the brain has finished identifying the face, the insignia, the bearing, the specific quality of authority that accumulates over 2 decades and settles into the way a man holds his shoulders. Stills processed all of it in the time it takes to blink. Then he processed the face. The color left his. Marcus Osei stopped 3 feet from Kevin Stills. He looked at him for a long moment without speaking. Then he turned to his daughter, who was sitting in the plastic chair with her app chemistry textbook in her lap. She had gotten it from her bag while she waited. "Are you all right?" he said. "Yes," she said. He nodded once. He turned back to Stills. "Kevin Stills." He said the name the way you say a name when you have been holding it at a distance and have just decided to pick it up. "Do you know who I am?" Stills's mouth moved. What came out was not a full sentence. "I am Deputy Superintendent Marcus Osei. I command this precinct district. I command this assignment. I command you." He said each sentence with a space between it, so that each one could be its own fact. "And you are going to stand exactly where you are standing." He did not shout. That is the thing that everyone who was in that office that morning would describe later, in their own words, to anyone who asked. He did not shout. He did not need to. There is a particular kind of authority that does not announce itself because it has never needed to, and Marcus Osei's voice in that office was that kind. Flaherty had come out of his inner office when he heard the door. He stood now in the doorway of that inner office, holding a printout of something, looking at the uniform across the room. "Mr. Flaherty," Marcus said, without turning from Stills. "I want the original report that was used to remove my daughter from class. I want the time it was received, the name of whoever took the call, and the name of whoever authorized Officer Stills to act on it. I want that documentation in my hand in 10 minutes. Flaherty said, "Yes, sir." He went back into his office. Officer Stills. Marcus still had not moved. "You went through my daughter's bag without documented cause, without parental notification, and without her written consent, in direct violation of district search protocol and state juvenile procedure. You removed her from instructional time on the basis of a report that contained no actionable information. You did not verify the report before acting. You did not check whether a theft had actually occurred. You did not offer her the right to contact a parent before initiating a search." He paused. "Is there any part of that account you would like to correct?" Stills said nothing. "I have been in this department for 21 years, Marcus said. I have worked with officers I trusted with my life, and officers I would not trust to direct traffic. I know the difference. And I know, because I have read your file, Because I have read both dismissed complaints from this school. Because I have reviewed the incident report from your reassignment from the 4th Precinct. Exactly what kind of officer is standing in front of me. He took one step closer. You had a choice this morning. You had a report with nothing in it, and you had a black girl in an app chemistry class, and you made a choice about which one of those things told you more about the other. That choice is documented now. That choice is mine to act on. He stepped back. He turned to his daughter. Get your things. What happened next did not happen slowly. Marcus Osai returned to the district command building and filed a formal officer conduct report by 2:00 that afternoon. He attached Amara's account, his own first-hand observation, and a written request for the district's SRO contractor to produce all internal documentation related to Stills's conduct at Dunmore Academy for the previous 3 years. The contractor produced the documents under pressure. The documents contained records of 7 incidents. The same 7 incidents Miss Carmichael had been keeping in her desk drawer journal, which she submitted formally that afternoon after a call from a union representative who told her, for the first time, that she had a right to do so without fear of retaliation. The contractor's complaint review board had dismissed every one of those 7 complaints. The board's review logs showed that in 4 of the 7 cases, the review had been completed in under 20 minutes. 2 of the reviews consisted of a single line: insufficient evidence. Closed, the district superintendent reviewed the contractor's records on Wednesday morning. He did not review them alone. He reviewed them with the city's Office of Youth Safety, with a representative from the State Department of Education, and with a civil rights attorney whose firm had been contacted by Vivienne Osai on Tuesday evening, 60 minutes after she picked her daughter up from school. By Thursday, the contractor had been notified that their school security contract was under formal review. By the following Monday, Kevin Stills had been suspended without pay pending investigation. His credentials were flagged in the department system, which meant that no assignment, school, municipal, or contracted, could be processed without command review. The story was in the newspaper by Friday, not because Marcus Osai had called anyone. Because 3 Dunmore Academy students who had witnessed the removal from room 214 had told their parents that evening. And 3 sets of parents had made 3 different calls. And the calls had gone in 3 different directions, and 2 of them ended at the same reporter. The article ran on the front page of the local section. By Sunday, it had been picked up regionally. By Tuesday, a week after Amara had been walked out of app chemistry, with her hands visible, the story was national. The formal investigation lasted 11 weeks. Kevin Stills was terminated from his school resource assignment in week 3, after the investigation confirmed that in 5 of the 7 documented incidents, there had been no documented basis for the removal, search, or detainment of the students involved. All 5 students were black. All 5 were girls. His personnel file was referred to the department's Internal Affairs Division, which opened a parallel investigation into the process that had produced his reassignment to Dunmore Academy in the first place. Specifically, the use of force incident at the 4th Precinct that had been resolved in his favor on the basis of 1 account against 3, and the question of who had decided that a reassignment was a sufficient response. The contractor's complaint review board was dissolved. The district replaced it with an independent student safety panel that included 2 community members, 1 civil rights advocate, 1 retired educator, and 1 student representative elected annually from the district's high schools. The panel had binding authority. Its findings were not reviewable by the contractor. They were reviewable only by the district superintendent and, on appeal, by the city. Ron Kavanaugh, who had, it turned out, served briefly on the contractor's complaint review board as an outside advisor in the 2 years before his appointment as hospital chief of security elsewhere, was not directly implicated in the Stills matter. His name appeared in the contractor's records in a context the investigation described as peripheral. That peripheral mention was noted. Filed, kept, Miss Denise Carmichael submitted her 14-month journal into the formal record. 43 pages. It was cited 12 times in the investigation's final report. She received a district service commendation the following spring. She kept her classroom across the hall from room 214. She did not ask for a different assignment. She wanted to stay where she could see. Mrs. Joellen Torres, the front office receptionist who had set the phone on the counter without being asked, was not named in any report. She did not expect to be. She had done what she did in the way that ordinary people do the right thing when the right thing is directly in front of them, and they decide, in one quiet second, that they are the one who has to act. Amara sent her a card at the end of the school year. She kept it on her desk. She showed it to no one. 6 months after the morning in room 214, Amara Osei received her early admission letter from Howard University. She was accepted to the honors chemistry program. She opened the letter at the kitchen table, where her parents were pretending to read things while watching her from the edges of their eyes. She read it once through. Then she set it down and said, "Okay," in the tone of someone checking an item off a long list. Her mother cried. Her father did not, but his face did something that was not far from it. That evening, after dinner, after Vivienne had called her mother in Ghana and Marcus had called his sister in Atlanta, after the house had gotten quiet, in the way it gets quiet, when something large has moved through it and settled, Amara sat at her desk and opened her app chemistry textbook to chapter 9. She had not finished the sentence she was writing when Stills had walked into room 214. It had been bothering her since Tuesday. Not the incident. The sentence. She finished it now. In the district command building, Marcus Osei stayed late. He did this most evenings, but this evening he had a reason he didn't discuss with anyone. He was reviewing the new complaint intake process he had personally redesigned, checking whether the protocol changes he had mandated were being implemented correctly at every school assignment in his district. He was looking for gaps. He expected to find some. That was why you looked. On the credenza behind him, the triangular flag case caught the last of the evening light from the window. His uncle's flag, the man who had carried dignity like a weight he never set down and never asked anyone to help him carry. Marcus looked at it for a long moment. Then he turned back to the files. There was more to do. There was always more to do. Vivienne picked him up at 9. They drove home in the comfortable silence of people who have been talking their whole lives and know when words are not the thing. She reached over at a red light and put her hand over his on the center console. He turned his hand over and held hers. She finished chapter 9, Vivienne said. Marcus looked out the windshield. The city moved past them in the dark. "I know she did," he said. He had checked before he left. Until the system has a process that cannot be bypassed. Until the complaint goes somewhere that isn't aboard the contractor built to close complaints. Until a student pulled out of app chemistry for no reason is the kind of thing that cannot be buried in a file that gets reviewed in 20 minutes and closed with one line. Until then, he thought. Someone has to be reading the files. If something in Amara's story stayed with you after you finished reading it, if you have sat in a plastic chair in an office where you hadn't done anything, if you have watched someone you love be made to prove what they are, then you already understand what this story is about. It is not about one officer. It is about the systems that move officers like Stills from one assignment to the next and call it a resolution. It is about the complaint boards that exist to process complaints without changing anything. And it is about every person who decided, in a quiet moment, to be the one who didn't look away. Share this with someone who needs to know that the receipts matter. Subscribe because accountability is not a one-time event. And drop a comment. When have you seen someone stand up for a young person in a moment when it would have been easier not to? Tell us. We want the names remembered. Because every time this story gets told, it becomes harder to erase.